Hey guys, Becky here with Design Bundles, and I'm super excited to have you join me today because we're wrapping up our project using our Soundwave file. This time we're turning it into a farmhouse sign. Alright guys, so the last we left off, we had just finished up setting up this design and importing all of our pieces, and also where to go to get all these pieces to make the design. So if you're just now joining us, this is part 2 of a 2-part video, but you can check out our YouTube channel and we'll link it down below in the description and show you where you can find the video on setting up this design step by step. All right, it's a really great video. Obviously I'm a little biased, but nonetheless, I definitely think you should check it out. But we're going to move forward from this point on separating the different parts of this file, isolating what's going on what material, and then also following through with the cutting process. So first and foremost, this outside layer, well, let's ungroup it first. This outside layer is for visual representation only, okay? It is sized to fit the size of our blank Farmhouse Sign Kit, so I can just delete it and get it out of the way, all right? It does not serve a purpose other than to visually represent the border that's going to go around the sign, and of course you'll see that in just a minute. Now, what we have left is we have our QR code, and then we also have our photo right here. Of course, this is part of that photo. So before we forget that, let's go ahead and group those together. Both of these are going to be printable. All right. Now the rest of this, we are going to cut from black Oracle 651, which is a permanent adhesive vinyl. So once again, we are going to select everything by drawing our drag box, and then we can simply group that together as well. So let's move that down a little bit. Now let's talk about our page setup panel. First thing I'm going to select is my Cameo. I do have a Cameo for. My cutting mat for this first one, I actually don't need one. And then our media size is going to be letter. And we're going to do portrait and show print border. Okay, all of that's very important, I promise, and it's always good to walk through these steps anytime you're setting up, whether it's to cut or to print. Now I'm going to bring my photo over, and I'm going to bring my QR code over. Like I said, these are my 2 printable items, so I can just print them together. Now, these are both rectangles, so I do not have to use the print and cut feature. If you are using the print and cut feature though, you would want to turn on your registration marks and then also go into your page setup panel and make sure that you're not cutting out the little sound waves on the photo. Okay, now how would you do that? Well, the first thing you would do is ungroup it. We would then select both the photo and the QR code. Now let's see, we're not going to pop out, we're going to regular cut. So we would just choose cut and see how it would cut those out. And then we're going to select our sound wave and choose no cut. All right, so it would actually cut all the way around. If you need help turning on your registration marks, that is also going to be in your page setup panel. The third icon is registration marks. You can turn those on, but if you do that, then you would definitely need to print this, print and cut for 2 different files. All right, I would print one here, and then I would have to come back and print my QR code. All right, and that's why, I mean, not only because I can use a paper trimmer to trim out my rectangles, but also it's going to help me to just print both of these on one sheet of printable vinyl, okay? Now, when I go to print these, I'm just going to choose print from the top shortcut list here. I get a little preview. Let's go into, if you need to, you can go into settings. My page size is correct. We're just going to hit OK. And then we can hit print. We're going to select the printer we're going to use. I'm using my inkjet because the printable vinyl is for inkjet printers. And let's see, go to preferences. Now this you may have to experiment a little bit with. I know that my printer will print just fine with normal quality, but you can come in here and adjust the quality. You can adjust the paper type, okay? I'm, like I said, going to leave mine regular, but just know that those options are there if you're not getting really good prints. So from here, I can hit apply and I can just hit print and it will send this to my printer to print out. Now, once that is printed, next it's time to set up how to cut this bad boy, right? Let's go back to our page setup panel. You notice I just moved this right off to the side. Back in our page setup panel, we are going to leave the machine. Our cutting mat will now be a 12 by 24, and our media size will also be a 12 by 24. Let's zoom out a little bit. We can turn off our page print border, and we will turn on the cut border, okay? Now we can simply select our design, rotate it 90 degrees. Now I'm in my transform panel under the third icon, which is for rotate. Rotate it 90 degrees, and then up here at the top, just hit center to page. All right, now I am going to move mine down because I do try to be conservative with my vinyl. I can technically keep the end pieces and even the top piece if I want to as scraps. Now when it's time to cut, I'm going to go back to my send panel. I'm going to select all this every now and then for whatever reason. See how those lines are really bold? It's because they're selected to cut edge. I don't want to cut edge. I just want to regular cut. So I'm going to choose that and my cut lines go back to regular. From my material setup, or my material type rather, I'm going to choose vinyl glossy. My type is, or my action is going to stay cut. And of course I cut with the ratchet blade, so if you cut with an auto blade, you may want to change that to auto blade. I cut with a ratchet blade, so that's what I'm going to leave it at. Now I'm going to load the vinyl on my cutting mat and load my cutting mat into the machine. Don't forget to do your test cut, guys, especially a file this big. It would be really disappointing to get all the way to the end and find out that you didn't get a good cut and you've wasted this large piece of vinyl. So do your test cuts, and then let's go ahead and reconvene over on our workstation and work on putting this sign together. All right, guys, so let me show you what I have here. This is a Farmhouse wood sign kit. All right, I bought it as a kit. I really like these because they're two parts. So what that means is I can do anything I want to here and then glue the frame on. And that really helps, in my opinion. It helps because you're not fighting with the edges of your sign, okay? Now, this one in particular is two pieces like this, but then there's also a, and I'll link you to both of them. There's another place that I found that is similar, except the side pieces slide on, okay? So I'll link you to both the places that I buy these farmhouse kits. They both are really, really awesome. I like them a lot. Now, what I'm going to do here is I have my photo. This is a over laminate that I'm gonna use. And let me tell you about my vinyl, okay? Now, I did already cut and weed my vinyl. And what I did was my farmhouse sign, and that's why I like this size, is 12 by 24, okay? So my actual project size is going to be 10 by 22. So what I did was I cut a 12 by 24 piece of vinyl, used my 12 by 24 inch mat, and then while it was on the mat, I went ahead and used an X-Acto knife to cut around my design because I'm not actually going to use that, so I can save that black for a different project. And I went ahead and weeded it this way. It was just easier because it keeps it flat and I feel like it's more manageable to use like this, so I just wanted to show you that. Now, in addition, I don't know if you can see any of my individual cut lines, but like right here, there's a cut line. And what I did was I took my X-Acto knife and I cut areas so that I could weed them individually. So even though this is a larger piece, you don't have to pull from one end all the way over. You can do those cut lines yourself, or you can set them up in the software. And of course, we do have a video on doing it in the software. But for now, this is my design. This is my photo. Remember the white part All right, I just printed that. That's my QR code. And that is everything that we need to go ahead and get started. The first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and apply my transfer tape. And then I also have, I'm getting down to the end of my roll, but this is just regular painter's tape. You can also use like masking tape, probably electrical tape, anything like that. But what I want to do is go ahead and apply my transfer tape. Now this is a pretty high tack transfer tape. I use it quite a bit, but that means that I'm not going to burnish it a lot because I don't want to have a hard time getting my vinyl off of, from the transfer tape onto the wood. So I just rub it a little bit and then I can go ahead and pull this off. Now, I set my backing off to the side, the backing for my transfer tape. You know, you can definitely save that because especially this large of a piece of transfer tape, you can reuse, if it's a high tack, you can reuse it over and over again, okay? All right, now let's talk about positioning this. What I wanna do, first off, is I need to make sure that I leave enough room to account for this frame, right? This is more of a visual process, but what I want to do, remember I left enough on each side. Okay, I want to make sure that it is as straight as I can get it. Okay, and go ahead and let it touch down. Now, what I'm going to do is pull up the sides and go ahead and get my frame off of here. That way I can come back in, burnish it really good, make sure it's straight, hopefully work out any bubbles. Okay, let's see what I got going. Now, your transfer tape may pull up some of your paint, okay? For my purposes, that's okay. I don't know if you could tell with this or with the frame, but I actually did distressing with some sandpaper because the wood was already a little bit rough. So it just, number one, it helped me to smooth out my wood. And then number two, it just really goes with the style, my style of crafting. The vinyl will stick to a painted surface better than it will like raw wood, but you may still have to help it along. It does help if you peel at an angle. And do you see how I'm folding it over on itself? That is gonna help also. You just want to make sure. Now, if you start peeling this off and you end up with a couple letters still on your transfer tape, it's not the end of the world. You can come back and place those by hand. But try to keep an eye on it the best that you can because it can actually rip your vinyl, okay? Now, if it ends up ripping your vinyl and causing, a ripple or a tear, then you can actually just recut that part and place it by hand. It's not a complete loss. Now, a lot of people will also do this as a stencil, and that's okay. If you prefer to stencil it and then have the, the painted on look, that's okay. I'm kind of a lazy crafter, and I'm okay with this being vinyl. You can also use heat transfer vinyl on wood projects, and that will give it more of a matte finish, whereas this is definitely going to be a glossy finish. And last but not least, you can also buy matte, this is glossy Oracle 651. You can also buy matte Oracle 651, okay? So just some options available. Stencil it, use heat transfer vinyl, or buy a matte. See how much paint is on there? So it'll be up to you if you ever use this piece or not. All right, so with our vinyl on there, now we can go ahead and work with our photo and our QR code. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up, grab a pair of scissors, and trim off the bottom. That way I can use that piece up here, okay? Now you'll notice I did not do this as a print and cut. That's because my photo is just completely rectangle, so print and cut was not mandatory. So I'm going to line this up. It's a little wider, so I want to be careful that I'm not interfering with my QR code over here. And this is just going to help seal the ink on there and that sort of thing. You can use the squeegee. I really like these felt tipped squeegees because it helps me to really, get in there and get the bubbles out without tearing anything. And then same thing here, we can just go ahead and get this started and place it by hand right on top of our QR code. So now I'm just going to use my straight edge paper cutter, open it up, and I think I tell you guys this all the time if you've caught any of my other videos before. This one has a wire that runs through the middle of our guide here. So I can literally just line the wire up with the edge of the photo and it'll cut exactly where I need it to. So very useful. I really love that. And the replacement blades are pretty inexpensive also. So a win-win. Okay, so there we go, nice and laminated on there. Now let's do the same for our QR code. Now the only difference with the QR code is I'm actually going to line the QR code up with the edge of my guide so that I can leave a little white border all the way around. So once again, there we go. Now let's add these. We can actually add these after we put our frame on. These are the easier pieces in my opinion. So let's just turn it sideways. Let's put our frame on here. Now this is where your painter's tape is gonna come in handy. Peel a piece, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it right through the middle. Okay, because I need to place this, remember, because this matches up exactly. Okay, so I need to put this right in the middle, and that's what's gonna hold it there. Now, I don't have to do that for this piece. So what I'm gonna do is just peel off the back, much like you would a sticker. And your QR code should go something like this. All right, now back over here, we're gonna do the same thing now that we have it aligned. And grab your scissors. Now, what we did with the tape here, it's called the hinge method. Okay, there's obviously lots of great projects you can use the hinge method for, and it's really great for securing, you know, the exact placement that you need. I could have used it for my vinyl for my main sign, but you know, just putting it on there did not have to be quite as exact in my opinion. So what I did was I cut off a piece of the backing. I can go ahead and remove the transfers or the painter's tape. Peel it back up and grab the rest of the backing and smooth this into place. So this is our semi-finished project. The only thing left to do is to glue the frame on there. I use the Stick Fast adhesive. I get it from Amazon and it dries really quick. It's like super glue for wood. So I'm gonna flip this over. I'm being pretty liberal, but I'm only applying one thick stream and then it'll spread out just a little bit. So far, this stuff has not failed me yet. I'm going to turn it over. Now what I'm doing is I'm using my fingers along the side to make sure that it's lined up, and then we'll stick it down. So I really like this glue. So far I haven't, because it dries so fast, I haven't needed to use any type of clamps or anything with it. You just hold it down for a minute and it should adhere. Now, one thing I get asked a lot anytime that I make signs is, do I seal them with anything? I personally do not. Now, if you do choose to seal with something, I suggest something similar to polyacrylic. I think that would be useful. Polyacrylic, from what I understand, does not yellow or anything like that over time. Which I guess polyurethane does, so there is a difference. So just make sure you're picking an appropriate sealer. It does, if you seal it, I think it does, you know, add maybe a little bit of a finished look, but I really am just more of a fan of the rustic look. And look guys, if I pull up on this, on just the frame, it is already fully adhered. Now, of course, I'll let it dry before I hang it. And the way that I would hang it is I'm going to buy some of the picture, the little sawtooth hooks for the back, and be able to hang it that way, because this is actually pretty thick. I believe that both of these are made out of 1/2-inch wood, plywood. Okay, so pretty hefty, but this is going to be a wonderful Father's Day gift. And of course, it will also make a great gift for, you know, anytime. I really don't think you need a reason to have to make one of these. But now you guys have the full tutorial from creating it in the software and all the tools that we used, and then now putting it into an actual physical body. So hopefully you enjoyed it. So guys, what did you think about our farmhouse sign project? All right, now I know that it was a little bit of a long tutorial if you joined us from part 1 and part 2, but totally worth it, okay? I'm really, really proud of this project. I personally love it a lot, and you know, like I said, it makes a really good gift, a really great home decor item. I mean, there's really so much you could do with it. I did this obviously for my own daughter, but you could easily do it for any member of your family or a special memory or anything like that. So again, just really one of my favorites. And I know I tell you guys that all the time, but it's really true. I just feel like probably every project is my new favorite. So well guys, if you have any questions or comments about the project today, make sure you leave that down below. I do love to hear from you guys. And of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel, maybe share with a crafty friend, or give the video a big thumbs up if you learned a few things. Guys, I just really appreciate all the support that you show for the channel. And you know, I'm gonna wrap it up for today, guys, but thank you very much for stopping by, and we'll see you again next time.